to show you, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Let me show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 84. Do you recognize who this person is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Gami.
Okay. Does this accurately reflect the person you know?
That
you've been
is
referring to
that
as
is Jessica Kafijian Gamliana, who prefers to be called Anna now, and I
Okay.
told her the name change has been a little difficult for me.
All right. Your Honor, this time I'm going to tender State's 84.
Okay.
State's 84 is admitted.
Permission to publish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me see. All right. So this is Gami.
That is Jessica Kafijian Gamliana.
Okay. Do you know how old she is compared to Kuwani?
Jessica's birthday is June 3rd, 1988.
June 3rd, 1988.
That's right.
Okay. So she's older. And this is State's Exhibit 85. Do you know who this is?
Yeah, that's Shaylee. That's Sarah Stiles.
Okay.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would tender State's 85.
Okay.
It's admitted.
And this is, how old is she?
Shaylee was born February the 8th, 1997.
February 8th, 1997. How do you know all these women's birthdays? Is that something that's
I have a
important?
partially photogenic memory.
Okay. Would that be information that you seek out about people that you care about, or that
No,
you?
I don't even try to remember.
Okay, you just remember it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the nature of my mind.
Are these two pictures the scene that you remember of December the 8th of 2020, being at that residence?
Oh my gosh, that is the inside of Jerry's house, isn't it? Wow. Yeah, I don't know the inside. I was gonna say, because I see the picture of Shaylee there, and I'm like, wow, that's really messy. Like, because they never kept a messy place, you know. But Jerry does.
Okay.
So I see that there. That is the inside, because like you see all the dirt and like just like it's kind of nasty looking. I was just like, where was this picture taken? Like, because they do not keep an unclean house like that.
Okay.
You know, so, but Jerry definitely does. Jerry's kind of a slob, self-admittedly on his part. So I'm not trying to,
Okay.
he'll admit that.
All
so.
right. Tell me a little bit about that. You said they keep a clean environment. In terms of sort of the dynamics of the group when you were with them, did they have any viewpoints about like diet or like health in terms of?
Oh yes, very much. That's like a part of the way that they live, and it's part of the way that I live too.
Okay. And what were sort of were you all like-minded in that way?
Yes, very much. And that's
Okay.
one of the things that that I liked about Z immediately was that the way that he cared for himself and the way that he cared for his women.
What do you mean by that?
First of all, like there's like a standard of purity. You know, I've been on and off vegetarian for most of my life. I met them, and they're vegans.
Okay.
They eat no processed sugar. They eat extremely healthy, like no vegan. And the reason why they don't eat animal products is because of the inhumane treatment of animals. You know, so it's like it's viewed as like an innocent life. So you have an innocent life in this animal, and Z feels that, you know, we are not entitled to take that life. And that was actually something that I picked up from Z, because before I had just been a vegetarian for my own health purposes. But then he told me about his reasoning for veganism, and I agree with him. You know, it's like one of the things that, you know, I met Z, and when I went down to visit them in Florida, I hadn't been a vegetarian for a very long time, like 2 years. It had been 2 years that I'd been on a meat-eating diet. And I got back around them, and I was influenced in a positive way, I would say, by being around them and being around their health again. And so I immediately went back to vegetarianism, and I've been a vegetarian ever since.
Okay.
Back to my routine. And Jen did it with me too,
Okay.
for the remaining time that she was with me.
All right.
Like we immediately switched back to vegetarianism.
Was everybody, during the time you spent with them between May of 2020 and beyond, was everybody a strict vegan?
Yes.
Okay.
And they also used like no drugs or alcohol whatsoever.
Okay.
Which
And
is
what was the reason for that?
because it's like toxic.
Okay.
And because it's like it dilutes your mind and your ability to process and be your most pure and able self.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any viewpoints surrounding like water or what kind of water they could consume?
What do you mean?
Just did they have any rules about what water they drank?
I don't know that I can speak to that specifically. I mean, I know that, but I will say that reverse osmosis water, I know that Z drinks reverse osmosis water,
Okay.
and so do I. And
Okay.
I've been filtering my water reverse osmosis for the past 20 years.
Okay.
Because, you know, you'd like to get there's a lot of particulates in the water, especially, you know, you get the water out of the sink, out of the tap here, it's full of chemicals and fluoride and chlorine and things that are heavy metals that are unhealthy for your brain and body
Okay.
that should really be avoided at all costs by everyone. But like I say, very few individuals take the time to care for themselves at this like level of impeccability. And so that's something that I respected about them very much and attracted me to become closer and better friends with them.
Okay. From your perspective, was the observation of these practices something that was inherent in them or something that required discipline from them?
No, definitely not. Like, Kawani was the one who was, like, giving me a hard time about eating meat when I was in. She's the one who's like, you know, she's like, you just don't care about the animals, do you? And I'm like, she's like, maybe you're just an asshole. And I was like, maybe I
She
am.
said maybe you were just an asshole?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're talking about
Kawani, the
Kawani.
woman who's sitting right there.
Okay.
And I said, maybe I am, you know, and maybe I should stop eating meat because of this reason, not for my own health purposes.
Okay.
You know, because of the taking of life and because, you know, it's better to live that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, maybe you're right, young lady, you know, like I see where you're coming from. And so I actually went back to vegetarianism then.
Was she expressive in communicating about sort of her belief system of subscribing to these practices?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not like it was like forced.
Okay.
You know, it's like, it's pretty logical, really. You know,
Okay.
it's like, and it's like, I mean, it makes sense. It's like, this is impeccability. This is taking care of yourself in the highest regard. This is eliminating toxic waste from your body. This is living a life that's clean and pure without drugs and alcohol of any type, including caffeine.
Okay.
You know, no nicotine, no alcohol of any type. They don't drink at all.
Okay.
You know, so it's like, it's really rare to find that level of commitment of care to yourself. And all of these girls were just on board with it. You know, they were like, of course they are, because it makes sense and you feel better and you feel healthier and you're like, you know, representing something that is separate from the regular world of toxicity and negligence to one's own well-being.
Okay. You mentioned that during your, I've used kind of December of 2020 as like a date just because of the incident that we're here for, but
Yeah, we'll get there.
how long did you spend time with the group even beyond that date?
Oh gosh, I'm still friends with Z now. I was in
Okay.
Shayla's parents' house for a month in March of earlier this year. Like,
Okay.
you
So
know,
for the last 4 years,
I've
you've
been-
maintained constant communication and contact
most
and friendship
definitely,
with them? Okay.
most definitely, and we've all been very hurt by this, and we've, you know,
Okay.
worked through this together and as the best we can.
All right.
You know.
So you mentioned that they didn't consume any drugs or alcohol. Are you referring to sort of illicit drugs or just all drugs? What do you mean by the term drugs?
Anything that is psychotropic in nature.
Okay.
Anything that's like no pharmaceuticals, no alcohol, no drugs of any kind.
Okay.
What do you mean? What drugs are there? What?
I guess what I'm going to get into is sort of like modern medicine or treatment of ailments or like healing practices? Like, did they have sort of didn't adopt the traditional worldview of like the exercise of medicine?
Yeah, none of these girls really had very many ailments.
Okay.
So, I know, but you mean like ibuprofen?
Sure.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah. I prescribe to these systems myself. Like, I don't
Okay.
take those kinds of drugs either.
All right. And was the whole group sort of like-minded in that way?
They're all for it, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So were there sort of healing practices or things that you all did for your bodies that were not traditional?
I mean, like what?
Like drinking your own urine?
Sure.
Okay.
I've been drinking my urine daily for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell me, like, obviously that's not traditional in a broad
Well, it was in the
scope.
past when people understood their bodies.
Okay.
Now we've become so deranged and diluted and essentially live in a psychotic society of mental illness and addiction to pharmaceuticals and alcohol and toxic food that we have become so diluted and separate from what it means to be healthy on the deepest and most fundamental cellular levels that we would describe an attempt to achieve homeostasis in the body. Yeah, so urine therapy is non-traditional in today's modern terms of, our deranged society, toxic society. But it's actually written about by medical doctors. It's written about by people all over the world. There's if you go online and look up urine therapy, there's like 15 books available written by allopathic medicine doctors, homeopathic medicine doctors, written by shamans and gurus from the East, written about by regular everyday people who have healed themselves, who claim to have healed themselves of things such as cancer by drinking their urine.
Okay.
And it tells all about, if you want to do your research, urine is from the word urine, meaning light. And basically it's like when you go to an oncologist and they take a urine sample instead of a blood sample, that's because the urine is more telling of the malfunctions in your body. And so allopathic, homeopathic, and people from all types of different natures write about, the photonic realignment of your DNA through urine therapy. So urine has like discarded nutrients in it, but those nutrients have passed through your kidney and bladder and are now contained within urine, the light production of your body. And it needs to be understood, and this is just like very common programming in the world, that urine is waste, and it's literally an antiseptic. It's the opposite of waste. Your stool is your waste. Your urine is an antiseptic. It's a true sterilant, and it's antibacterial. That's why Boy Scouts 101, when you have an injury or you have a snake bite or a jellyfish sting or something like that, and you use your urine to sterilize and to act as an antiseptic and act as an antibacterial immediately on open wounds in the flesh. So you could think about this as like the same type of thing is happening inside of your body. We're talking about like antibacterial,
How long have you been engaging in that practice as like a, do you consider it a healing practice or like a health routine?
Well, to me, it was a healing practice at first, and I would say that the first year, it took me probably like 6 months to a year, but actually I would say maybe a little less than that. I think for some individuals, they would probably, that would be a healing practice for at least a year, but I was considerably healthier and more fit than the average individual.
Okay.
Like I said, I've been filtering my water, all the fluoride and chlorine out of my water for like 20 years since I was in high school.
Okay.
I started these practices very young. I just realized that, it's like, would you like to have toxic waste and heavy metals in your water, or should we filter these out? It doesn't really take a genius to figure this out. Like, we should be taking these steps to heal ourselves and and not only heal ourselves, but as a health practice. Mm-hmm. So I'd say like for the average individual, I think their first year of urine therapy would be more of like a healing but I use it to maintain my body still to this day.
And did you start urine therapy practice before you met Z?
No, actually, but I didn't learn about it from Z. I learned about it from Peggy.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I started drinking my urine, and after about a month, I was Z never even mentioned that.
Okay.
But after I had been drinking my urine for about a month or something, I was like mentioning it to Z, and he's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "Yeah, we do that too."
Okay.
You know, so I actually know a couple dozen individuals who drink their urine regularly.
A couple dozen? Okay.
Yeah, sure do.
And as far as Z and Kuwani and Shalig and Gami, did they all participate in urine therapy also?
As far as I know.
Okay. Did you ever know of anybody be forced to participate in that practice?
No, I didn't, actually. All the individuals that I've met, or it's kind of like one of those things, it's like, oh, I didn't even know about that. You know, like I didn't know until Peggy told me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing my research online, and it turns out there's a lot more people that do it than, like, there's this guy who I really respect online. His name's Troy Casey. He's the certified health nut. He's like an influencer on Instagram. And so he and like several other individuals, they really promote like urine therapy. They do it all the time.
Okay.
You know, so it's like, it's a little more mainstream than, you know, you would think. And unless you know about it, and then you hear about it, and it's like, oh, this is a lot more mainstream than I thought.
Mm-hmm. You already kind of just spoke about the sort of group's collective views on medicine, or traditional medicine.
Sure.
Were there any other types of healing practices to either like center themselves or strengthen their mind or their body that you were aware of?
Gosh, I mean, I personally use all kinds of, like, I use Rife machines. I've watched people have miraculous healings from Rife machines.
And what is that?
A Rife machine is a frequency generator developed by Royal Raymond Rife in the early 1930s at the University of San Diego, Southern California. And this man found that, and you can do your research on this, anybody who's interested, this man found that